Even when I compare the lives of human beings with the lives of animals, everyone's life is designed by nature, and nature is sometimes so beautiful, nature is so fulfilling and content in its own self, but sometimes nature is ruthless. So so we have to go through some pain in our lives that is unavoidable, which is inevitable. And so when I say that we have to make hard choices to make our lives slightly better, a little better than what that could be if we didn't make those choices. Now, to my understanding, as I mentioned, that nature is cruel as well. Like in our understanding, we can say it is cruel, but nature is just nature. It exists in its true form, and we take it as whatever it is. We can look at it as beautiful. We can look at it as fulfilling. We can look at it as cruel as well. Just like every other animal, human beings also go through so much pain. I'm not saying that only the society has caused pain to the humanity. Even before the civilization existed, there were struggles. Human beings and other human species that existed gone through struggles. And so when we already have so much struggle in our lives for the basic instinct of survival, the question is, why do we choose to bring about more struggle and bring more responsibility, bring more pain into our own lives? The understanding is clear that pain already exists, struggle already exists without the interference of society itself. But the moment civilization exists, the moment society exists, the amount of pain, struggle, and stress in the human being multiplies tenfolds. Now we are not worrying about our survival only. Apart from that, we are worrying about tons of other things. And what hard choices we could make so that we could make our lives comparatively easier, comparatively happier, and content and free, etc. Although we have to work for uh, to have food, to have shelter, to have clean water, to wear clothes. These are the basic survival needs. Apart from that, I consider everything a luxury. And so, how can we work on not being desperate about needing that luxury? We have reached to a mental state, the entire social structure has reached to a mental state that we feel those luxury are necessities. Those luxuries are an important part of life, that without that people cannot survive. But we can make hard decisions. Why are they hard? If why do I call them hard if they are not necessary? Why living them is hard because we have been fed with the idea that we have to keep up with the society, we have to keep changing with time, we have to match the standards of the society, relatives, our neighbors, celebrities, etc. Whoever we look at, we have to match their standards. And so, having the idea of leaving those things behind and not considering them as necessity is a difficult idea, and it is a hard choice. But are those hard choices necessary? Making those hard choices is an absolute necessity in this hour, because humanity is filled with so much depression due to all this burden that we have created on our own fragile shoulders. We created patriarchy and set a certain amount of expectation in every area: expectations from women, expectations from men themselves, expectations from children, expectations from elders, expectations from almost every human being on the planet. And patriarchal system, the patriarchal structure is the seed of this entire jungle of pain, of struggle, hardship on this planet, in the humanity. It brought up religion, and we all know what was the reason to bring religion into the society, because all the religious books are written in a manner that prohibits individuals from individual thinking, from free thinking, to make free choices. And that those religious texts, those religions, you know bind individuals into groups, into group thinking. And then came the very my very own favorite, the subject of marriage. And so it brings upon enormous amount of responsibilities. Living the idea of getting married is a very difficult and hard choice. And they have convinced us into believing that it is a basic necessity, it is a survival, but it is not. It is not survival. It is a burden. It is so much responsibility, so much snatching away of your own individual identity and freedom. And so, but being born into a society that encourages and even markets the idea of marriage, wherever we see, families are being marketed, and families cannot be created without getting married in this society. Society doesn't accept that, and unless you put your signature on the contract paper. Society doesn't accept you as a family, but you want desperately to be seen in the society, and you want them to accept you as a family. And we want the society to accept our love. If we love somebody, society should know, and so society should accept, the judicial system should accept. And so it makes it a trap. So how difficult are these choices to make, to choose our basic instinct of survival and freedom over these burdening responsibilities, these social ties. It is difficult. Despite knowing that it brings so much responsibility and hardship and pain and struggle and disrespect and whatever amount of bad things into our lives, despite knowing that, we follow it. It's like knowing that smoking kills. It is always printed on that carton, It causes cancer. It causes cancer of many forms: lung, throat, oral, in many cases, brain as well. It can cause heart attacks. We know that consuming alcohol is unhealthy. It is not that we do not know nothing. We know everything. We are in a you know time that everything is in front of us, very clear and transparent. And despite that, the system is so powerful and so smart that they show us that what these things could do to us, and yet they are able to convince us into buying all of this. How does the system convince us into buying cigarettes and alcohol? How does it do that? Despite they themselves reveal it to us, show us with studies, scientific studies, researches, that they are harmful. How do they end up selling that to us? By glorifying it, by showing it to us how cool it is. Smoking a cigarette makes us look cool. Sipping a cool whiskey glass makes us look cool, makes us look like an authority. Even though we are nothing, at least in our own heads, it makes us look cool. The entire social and judicial structure has shown us very clearly and transparently, with divorce cases, with alimony, with dowry cases, with domestic violence, murders, infidelity, etc. It has shown us on news channels, radios, books, etc. Everything, everywhere, it has shown us that how brutal marriage, the concept of marriage in itself is, and still it is able to sell it to us. How is it able to sell the idea of marriage to us human beings? By showing it as so cool that it is, even if it kills you, at least by doing this you gain some respect in front of the society. It makes you look responsible, it makes you look like a macho, an alpha. Or for women it makes them look like feminine. If they give birth, society praises them. Despite knowing the drawback of everything that is harmful for us, despite knowing their drawbacks, we choose them willingly. They say, what will happen? Like, we can choose if our marriage will be bad or good. We cannot be demotivated by looking at other people's marriage. If we get a good partner, we can have a good marriage throughout our life. The exact way that a drunkard convinces himself or the other that sipping on some amount of alcohol is not as bad, smoking some cigarette is not as bad, gambling is not as bad. At least, I've talked about this in some of my earlier videos, that people who want to do something despite knowing their drawbacks, they tend to get to an understanding, or at least a level of mind, that they convince themselves and at least try to convince others that what they are doing is not wrong in their case. A gambler would try, a new gambler specifically would try, or a new trader who knows that he might make losses would try to convince his or her parents or friends or peers that I know that people have faced losses, that it is a gamble, etc. But trust me, will not happen with me. Trust me, it will not happen with me. Optimism has nothing to do with, you know, inevitable loss. Being optimistic doesn't save you from the inevitable harm. Being confident or, you know, being so positive about something doesn't make you any different. But we are like the system, the powerful people, the society has been so successful in convincing us into doing everything, despite they are the people who show us that everything they are selling us is bad. I hope I am able to make a point. They do not hide it, so at least they are not held accountable. Huh. So how do they sell it? They are smart people. The industry is smart. Marketing is that is what we call marketing. That is what we call business. And so escaping from these, suppressing ideas is so difficult. But can we make the hard choice? Can we make the difficult choice despite everything around trying to convince us into doing something? Can we make that hard choice? Can we leave alcohol? Can we leave smoking? Can we understand the idea of marriage is a fraudster idea, is a scam? Can we understand that being a religious human being has everything negative about it? Can we understand that creating families and putting them on papers for the government to see is a scam? It did not exist prior to civilization and the existence of society. Even then, human beings existed. Homo sapiens, they existed. But when the mechanism of control came into place, came into existence, all of it started. Religion, marriage, family structures. And I'm not promoting people to live alone. Humans are social animal. But being social doesn't mean being a part of the society. Being a part of the society comes with responsibilities, burdens, and enormous amount of suffering as well. But being social doesn't mean that. And other animals are also social. I would definitely make a video on, you know, differentiating between these two socials. What does being social exactly means? Does it specifically mean being a part of the society, or does it mean something else? So I'll talk about this in another video. But till then, I mean, I leave you with this open ending of questioning the idea of making a hard choice. Till how long we will be convinced by them? How long will they control our own individual minds? And when is the time gonna come that we are going to question them and we are going to make our own choices? Because they do not push these, they convince us into believing it. That is what we call good marketing, good business skills. And they have it, we don't have it. We accept everything as it is, don't we? I'll see you in another video. Bye till then.